All right, folks,
Yeah.
welcome to On This Hill.
We're just sitting around laughing.
We are, because life is funny, folks. If you can't laugh.
Yeah, if you can't laugh at yourself sometimes.
Yes. If you can't laugh at your friend.
Look in the
then you
mirror
laugh
and have a
at
good
us.
laugh.
We were laughing at ourselves.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, so I hope this finds you well and you're happy and contented and growing in the Lord.
It's a beautiful day outside. The sun is
Yeah.
shining in Salem, Oregon. Not all over the
It
country,
is.
by the way.
Yeah.
My sister lives in North Carolina, just a few minutes from the beach, and she had like 9 inches of snow in her yard.
Really?
Like right by the beach. Can you imagine? North Carolina.
That's wild.
It is wild.
I miss snow. I want snow
It's
every
apocalyptic.
year. I know. It's I don't know. It's apocalyptic. Snowpocalypse. The 8 inches of snow is snowpocalypse.
Yeah, but we've had beautiful weather. It's been helps the disposition.
We have, yeah. We've been in a sermon series, the Gospel of John, where we've hit the halfway point. So we just finished chapter 11 last week, 21 chapters in the Gospel of John. And so, yeah, we want to talk about that. The previous week we talked about when Jesus purposefully delayed, when Mary and Martha called him to come to their aid and the aid of Lazarus and healing him before he died. And then this week we talked about him showing up and what that looks like, and he finds them in their disappointment and frustration, and what their expectations were versus the reality of the walk and the relationship that they had with Jesus.
Crazy story if you've never read the Gospels. Maybe just read that chapter, John 11, and you can imagine just the. There's no other story there really that had that incredibly. I don't want to use the word theatric, but it was
feels
so
like it,
shocking and so big. A man dies, a village is mourning, everybody's involved. This mysterious Jesus shows up, and there's weeping and grieving and still prayer. You could turn this around. He's been dead 4 days. You know,
It is.
It kind of reminds you of like magicians, or somebody, or the Houdini thing. Well, we're gonna paint it as bad as we can possibly paint it. So when the beautiful thing happens, it's going to be that much more spectacular.
Yeah.
Jesus waits 4 days.
I read a fair amount of just cultural background stuff to try to get an understanding. Like there were mourners that would come and spend time with you, and they were like not professional mourners, but they were in a sense
their thing.
Like,
yeah,
we show up and and to be around other people that understand mourning was a healing thing. So there was a whole crowd of people there that were helping,
their version of hospice.
Yeah, helping those two cry it out and feel it out and go back and forth to the grave. And I'm sure it probably wasn't that different than all the memorials that we do today, where, all right, now let's eat a meal. Hey, remember when he did this? Remember when he said that?
Yeah, a lot of cultures of the world are still like that. Not so much North American, but a lot of cultures in south of the border there and in other countries as well. There's everything stops, everything slows down, and everybody feels it together, and they walk through it together. They recover together. And
there's a spectrum of between what you'd call on the one side would be the more stoic cultures, and then I don't know, just more emotionally open cultures. And I'd say our culture, we're more stoic. There are those that are even more stoic than we are, but we don't tend to throw ourselves on caskets and scream and wail and tear our clothes. And I'm not making fun of any of those things.
No.
I'm not. I'm just saying we tend to suck it up.
Yeah, we internalize. A lot of cultures externalize.
Well, when I think about all the memorials that we've done where someone wants to say something, but their determination about whether or not they will do it is whether or not they'll cry.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to cry.
In front of people.
And I think that's so interesting because in other cultures, they're like, I would never go up there if I wasn't crying. Yeah. It's a funeral. Right. You should be crying. You should be showing your emotion and not keeping it in. And so I think my understanding of the culture, and I'm not an expert in this, but just from reading it, is that they were going to be on the more emotional side. Yeah. Farther towards that than we are in our stoicism.
Yeah, and you see that in other places too, where they're wailing over the loss of a son or a daughter or something that's happened, and even at the cross, the grieving. But Jesus shows up, and the story unfolds. He waits deliberately. He gets there late, and their prayer is, Lord. They recognize his authority, but at the same time, they're trying to reconcile it with, but what happened here? Why is he dead? That shouldn't have happened. If you would have been here, my brother wouldn't have died, which is a lot of us, right? In our humanness, we ask that same question. We believe, but Lord, if you are who I thought you were, who you say you are, the circumstances wouldn't have unfolded this way.
Boxers have a saying that everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face.
Yeah.
Like everyone says, well, this is how I'm going to fight. But then after you get punched in the face, it's just a fight.
Yeah.
And unless you're really well trained, you're not going to keep to your plan. You're just going to start swinging. And I think theology is just theory until you get punched in the face.
Yeah.
Like theology is just a theory. Well, this is what I think about God.
Yeah, it's an intellectual agreement.
Yeah, I think this about God, and I think that's right. And I think people that think a different way are wrong. But then you meet someone or you have that experience yourself, and it's like, oh, this isn't a theory anymore. This is what I know about God.
Isn't that interesting? That's very true. I think a lot of people have intellectual opinions, and they've arrived at those opinions, I don't know, by a variety of avenues, but until that opinion is tested, or until that belief is tested, and pain is the ultimate test, right? Pain and loss and tragedy, because we can't help but want to make sense of it, and totally natural reaction, right? I want to make sense of what's going on because my world turned upside down and it's out of control, so I need someone to help me. And that's it.
I think Mary and Martha had a theory of what their relationship with God was like, or what their relationship with Jesus was like. I don't know that they understood him to be God until Lazarus rose from the grave, but they understood him to be something special. I think they were like disciples of Jesus. Were they in the 12? No, but they were disciples of his. They were there, and they were followers of Jesus. They were supporters of Jesus. They hosted him in their house. They fed him. They cared for him. And then that changed it from theory of, oh, here's how we think this is all going to play out. Not just the history of Israel and how he will be the king, but here's, we have a theory of how he'll treat us and what he'll be like to us. And then it got real.
It's interesting. We talked about this maybe on Sunday, but here as well, just both Mary and Martha came out to greet him, but Jesus' response to them was very different. Because they both said, basically, word for word, they said, Lord, if you would have been here, my brother wouldn't have died. So Martha went first. She ran out, met him as he was coming into town. And of course, what did Jesus offer her? He
gives her answers about, well, this is, really he was revealing his divinity to him. Do you believe that I am the resurrection and the life? And he pushes her for an answer after he says, I'm the resurrection and the life. Do you believe this? And he kind of, in a way, tests her,
Tests her theology?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, in this moment of great pain and great disorientation, Martha, what do you believe about me?
Yeah, your old belief about me won't hold up under this new pressure, under this new weight. You need something hardier than you had. You had something with me, but it's not going to be enough to get you through the trial that you're going through right now.
Do you think that's a lot of people today?
Oh yeah,
a lot of people just.
I mean, it's been my experience over and over again is that I have a certain relationship with God, and it holds up until it doesn't, until something harder comes along.
Yeah, and we're forced to reevaluate.
Yeah, you kind of either have to, fish or cut bait, kind of. You have to, hey, either this stands and it holds up to this new pressure, or I have to have a new idea about who God is. And it has to just not be my idea. It has to be who he actually is to hold weight.
Do you think that's the only way we actually grow? Mature, spiritually and even emotionally to some degree, don't we? Do we grow that way? I mean, is that... I'm trying to think if there another way. Again, back to the intellectual. You can study about God, and you can study theology. You can study about history, church history, whatever. But until it's put into play, or put into action somehow, have I really learned? Is it really part of me? I guess.
I think it is. I think it's the only way you really grow. You can grow in understanding, but you're not going to grow practically until that understanding gets tested. But I think you don't have to sit around and wait for something to come to you to test it. You don't have to be like, because that makes it almost sound passive. Well, I guess I'll grow.
I'll wait for the test.
When I grow.
Yeah.
But you can actively do it by just going out and applying what you learn. So if you learn something, then you take that, like, hey, I'm learning about generosity in the Word of God. I'm seeing it over and over again.
Everybody should be generous.
Yeah, but rather than just, well, one day I guess I'll have to learn that lesson when I'm called on. But no, why don't you just go apply that? Go try giving. Go give away something you don't want to give away.
Yeah.
Go do something challenging and see how that is real or not real. And so I think, yes, that's the only way we grow, but I don't think it has to be a passive way that we grow, that you have to, like Mary and Martha, wait till something tragedy happens and then you grow.
It doesn't have to be as big as their situation, but even just little adversity or unmet expectations, things that disappoint us, things that test or what do I say, test us or rub us the wrong way.
Every single person has a theory about marriage. They've got a theory about what makes a good marriage, what they're looking for in a spouse, like all that.
Yeah.
And it's just head knowledge.
Or
That's
TikTok
all it is.
or something.
Yeah. My TikTok doctor told me this, whatever it is.
I've seen it. So
my
it
TikTok
must be,
therapist said I should do this. And it's all theory, but you can practice that. You can actually go into practice and not just by committing to someone.
Yeah.
Like if you're a guy, find a girl who, yes, this is someone I can give my life away to for the rest of my life, and then make the commitment. Bind yourself to that thing. Like, this is what I believe, that God should be in marriages, that it works like this. Now go do it, and then you will grow.
Yeah. It's like the noble thought of being a servant leadership or servanthood or something like that. And someone said the real test is when someone treats you like a servant.
Yes.
Then you just see whether or not it's real to you or not.
Yeah, same as with parenting. We were without kids for 10 years. And so we had a lot of theories about how people should raise their kids.
Yeah.
Because we'd seen it. We'd seen the good and the bad, and we're like, oh, these people should just do that. Like, I don't know why they don't do this. And then you have a kid, and you're like, oh, I see why they don't do it. I see why this is challenging.
Yeah. And then you have another kid who's very different than the first one. You have to pivot,
change
one
it
more
all.
time.
Yeah. Put it into practice, basically, is what we're talking about. Like, how do you put your faith into practice?
So he responded to Martha with truth. You believe this, who I am, I'm the resurrection and the life. But he responded to Mary in a different way. He responded to Mary with
tears.
With tears.
He take me to him, basically. Where's he at? And he doesn't really respond to her question. He doesn't say, because she asked the same question. Well, not really a question, it's a statement, but there's a question in the statement. If you'd have been here, And rather than even try to answer, he just cries with her. Like, I'm really curious, because John doesn't record. I'm curious if there was like hugging and touching. She threw herself at his feet.
Yeah.
Now we're going to talk about this next week, because it's the third time that you find Jesus at the feet of Mary. In completely different circumstances each time, but she throws himself at her feet. So I think that implies there's some kind of touching. The power of touch is amazing.
Boy, that's the truth. Yeah,
it is. It's amazing, and I think that's I see that all the time. Well, let's talk about love languages, right? Everyone knows the love languages. I think it's such common. I hear Hollywood actors talk about love language.
Yeah.
Isn't that funny? How it's just seeped into the culture.
Yeah, because it's so true.
Yeah, it's so true. But I think some people's love language primary might be touch. But I think touch, whether it's your primary love language or not, there's something about
communicates so much.
Yeah.
Communicates so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that verse, we unpacked that quite a bit, but just that two-word phrase, Jesus wept. I mean, that's pretty amazing when you think about if you take it in the bigger picture. That scene was the micro of a death of a loved one, but the bigger scene, the macro of the God of the universe weeping. I mean, what other religion on the planet actually has that component in it? The God of the universe weeping over the broken state of a man or a woman.
There's lots of reasons why I like this, but one of them I was thinking about after the sermon, it didn't go in the sermon, was that means that having more information doesn't necessarily help.
No.
Because some people, they just want to know. Yeah. Like, if I just knew. Well, Jesus had all the information. He wasn't lacking. He was God, fully man. So he had all the information. He still cried. And so I think sometimes when I feel like, if you would just tell me why, I wouldn't have to feel this way. But I don't think that's true. I think that's a wrong concept that we have, that if I just knew more, I would feel better. And he knew all of it, and it didn't seem like he felt any better. Maybe he felt worse than everybody else because he knew more. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, and we're not given any details, are we, about
Yeah.
how Lazarus died, how old he was when he died, what he died of, what,
Yeah.
what were the circumstances surrounding it. But it was
Yeah.
this thing of death that they were in this scene, and he was very dead, 4 days dead, and there's another phrase in that passage where it says he comes to that tomb and he's deeply moved.
Yeah.
He's deeply moved. And where have you laid him? And they said, well, he's here. And he sighs. Those phrases are interesting to unpack because it just talks about behind the phrases this profound sense of feeling, but we're not told exactly what it is. Is it anger? Is it grief? Is it empathy? Is it? And I don't know. I think there's got to be a measure of you and I have been around a lot of circumstances that are difficult for people. We've been in funeral parlors and we've been in hospital ER rooms and crime scenes and things like that. And there's this sense in me that I'm like, this isn't fair. This shouldn't have happened. This is a tragic accident. And it's like, this just shouldn't be. Yeah. It's like the universe
doesn't feel
is
right.
out of whack,
Yeah.
you know?
And it is.
You wonder if here's the creator of the universe. You wonder if he didn't feel like this was never supposed to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. And where all the rest of humanity can, if they're thinking right, could somehow have a sense of, this is my sin. That my sin has caused this fall, all of this pain. Like I participate in this. It doesn't just happen to me sometimes. I do it. I'm a part of that sin and death culture. But he didn't participate in it. There was nothing about death that was his fault. Nothing about, because he was without sin.
But doesn't that make it all the more bitter then? The sting of death doesn't. If I'm part of this problem, it just seems to make it worse.
Yeah.
Unless there's a bigger macro story, right? Unless there's a bigger backstory at play that in the micro you just can't wrap your mind around.
Yeah. And I mean, we see a little bit. We'll see this Sunday. Mary's response, because she's gonna. I hope you're reading ahead. I hope you know this, but she's gonna pour out an offering on Jesus. She has this amazing worship response to her pain. To something that was still very fresh and very tragic, but also Lazarus is alive again. But you wonder, like, what if you could interview them and bring them on the podcast? Like, what did you guys learn?
Yeah.
What did you learn? What's different about Mary now than there was Mary a few days ago when Lazarus was dead? Like, if you could talk to that Mary and go back a little bit, and Jesus didn't show up, and you're broken, like, what would you say to her?
Yeah.
Could you comfort her, or what would that look like? Hey, Martha, if you could go back, and now knowing, what you know now, what could you tell the younger you that was struggling in those moments?
Yeah. And you have that third character who's Lazarus, right? So you have Martha, you have Mary, but then you have a third central character to the scene.
I want to hear from him.
Imagine him at the party. Saying, I've been there in the grave.
Yeah.
Where have you been for 4 days? What have you been doing? Have you just been asleep? Have you been visiting somebody? And all of a sudden he hears a voice of authority saying, come back out.
Yeah.
Come out. And he comes out wrapped in grave clothes. And Jesus is like, well, let him unwrap him and let him go back to,
I know I can't
to his life.
Criticize the gospel writers, but come on, one interview with him. Like give us
at least
a few
couple
words.
Yeah, and then Lazarus said, wow.
Wow. Whoa. I didn't think I'd come back here again.
And you realize in between the lines, there had to have been some conversation at the party in next week's message in John 12.
Well, obviously.
There's a dinner given in his honor.
And before you even get to chapter 12 and chapter 11, this was such a huge event that it's like it really solidified everyone's opinions about Jesus.
Yeah, it was a watershed.
Like, you were either now he's the Son of God, or he's got to die.
Yeah.
And then obviously Lazarus's testimony must have been so profound, because in chapter 12 we'll see that they want to kill him too. Because you're not gonna. I mean, somebody calls you back from the dead, you're not going to shut up about that.
Yeah.
You're going to tell that story over. I mean, hey, Lazarus, now come over to my house and
We're
tell
going
the
to put you in
story.
the protected witness program.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. You'd be telling that story. Like that wins everyone else's story. Oh, what'd you do this weekend? Oh, that sounds fun. You know what I did? I came back from the grave.
Yeah. Isn't that funny how that kind of a thing is still at play in human nature today? When someone's, I'm going to use the word a witnessing. I'm not talking about the Christian witness, but they're witnessing of a transformation that's like unrefutable. It's undoubtable. That guy or that woman, she is different.
Yeah.
But if I don't want to hear it, I'm going to discredit that witness. I'm going to shut them off. I'm going to shut them down. The recent Grammy Awards, I didn't watch all of it. I saw a piece of it, but you know the
Jelly Roll?
Jelly Roll.
I've heard so much about that recently.
Yeah, he's just basically saying, "Hey, I'm a changed person." And he didn't come right out and say Jesus is Lord, but he talked about God has changed my life.
I've heard him say similar things. Yeah. I know he came from an incredibly rough background.
Well, and you just look at the guy. It's like, that's a different person than the guy that was 5 years ago.
Yeah.
But even then, people in the crowd there's certain writers I saw later commentaries on the Grammys, and they just sort of gnashed their teeth at it. Like, I don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
And it's funny how if your heart is set the wrong direction. In fact, if you remember this reminds me of the parable that Jesus told of the rich man who was he lived his life for himself, totally self-indulgent, and his name was Lazarus as well, right? And he's in hell, and they say, Lord, send someone back, send Lazarus back. Lazarus says, send someone back to warn my kids, right? And Jesus, hey, even if someone came back from the dead, they're not going to believe. And it's such a powerful thing.
Whenever I think about that and this story, which I think it was just the rich man who was unnamed, and I think the beggar was named Lazarus.
Oh, that's what it was. Excuse me. Yeah, I knew I had it backwards.
But that story and this story always reminds me of the Exodus story and Pharaoh getting his heart hardened. Because when you're fully confronted by God, you're either going to be for or against. And he was fully confronted by God through 10 plagues and through Moses and through all just miracles surrounding him, where it's like you'd have to try so hard to deny that this is the God of the universe. But he did. He chose to. It's like, no, I won't. You're not going to make me, that's just apparently a function of the sinful human heart, that you're either going to be broken and fall at the feet, or you're going to harden so much that you just refuse. And I think that's what happened to some of the Jewish religious leaders in the story of Lazarus. It's what God is describing to the rich man who would, go back and tell him, like, I know how this works, and they'll just harden themselves more.
Yeah, even if someone came back.
Yeah.
What a and of course that character Lazarus he didn't have any. He was dead. He wasn't sick or he wasn't asleep. He was dead. And when he heard the voice of Jesus saying, "Come out," he obeyed. That's such a powerful picture of grace and irresistible grace.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
irresistible.
He can
grace.
say, "No, thanks.
No, I'm staying." And again, there's just so many nuances to this story that are just amazing.
How do you think this connects to Monday night you talked about? I actually couldn't even be there, but self-awareness as a function of maturity, of spiritual maturity and emotional health, like being self-aware. I was thinking about that idea that Mary and Martha, if they could go back and talk, they had as much awareness as they could have in their pain before in the moment Jesus came.
Yeah.
But then later they're like, oh, now we realize something we didn't realize then. And they probably don't just realize something about God, they realize something about themselves. Oh, when the going gets tough, I tend to do this.
That's a fact. We had an hour lecture last night in a leadership class that we taught on this whole subject of self-awareness. And if self-awareness it's not self-consciousness, that's a different thing. Self-conscious is like an inordinate sense of how I see or how I'm perceived. It's almost like an unhealthy thing. But self-awareness is part of our life, right? a child, a toddler, doesn't have any self-awareness yet. I mean, they do, but it's very limited, right? And so it's funny or it's bothersome or they make noise. They're not aware. So there's internal self-awareness of who I am, but there's external self-awareness of how I'm perceived.
Yeah.
And those two things go hand in hand. And we talked about it in the context of leadership.
It reminds me of a American Idol contestant who goes on and doesn't know they can't sing. Like that, you don't actually have self-awareness.
Yeah.
You think
you're sincere, but
you think you sing, but you actually can't sing.
Yeah.
And that'd be fine. Like if you can't sing, that's totally fine, but just know it or don't know it. But there's things, strengths and weaknesses that we need to know about ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's it, isn't it? It's this two-part thing. It's self-awareness is a never-changing landscape. Because as I grow, someone might call it emotional maturity, and there's quite a bit of similarities there, but it's this sense of I'm beginning to know who I am. I'm comfortable or I'm understanding my identity, but it's also again how I'm perceived. And when those two things aren't congruent, it's painful. Like in a marriage situation, we talk about it all the time. We'll say to the guy, you think you're a great listener? I'm a wonderful listener. Rate yourself on a 1 to 10. He'd never say he's a 10. Although Matt
he's going to be a little humble. I'm an 8.
I'm an 8.5. I'm a 9. And then if the woman was to write it down on a piece of paper before he answered, well, what's the number you would give him? And she says, well, he's a good guy, but I don't think he's an 8 and 9. I think he's a 6. Well, there's the incongruency, right? And we see this all the time, right? In leadership, we've all watched somebody who he doesn't know when to stop talking, or he doesn't. That's not a funny joke, or that's a funny little emotional tick that you have, or maybe it's more serious than that. It's how you react to criticism or how you react to this. All those things are at play underneath the surface in our emotions, right? And who knows, well, not who knows, but the homework is, can I figure out where that stuff came from, and then how do I grow? So
how do you though? Like how aware can you be of yourself outside of someone helping you? Do you think it's possible to be self-aware without someone helping you be self-aware?
That's a great question. I think so. Yeah. As a believer, I'll answer the question through the lens of the gospel. I think Paul in the book of Ephesians said, he said, you've come out of darkness. He said, put on the new self, take off the old self, which is corrupt. He said, put on the new self, created in the image of God. So I think the homework of a believer, of a disciple of Jesus, is to figure out who I am in my Creator. So God has made me. God's created me. How has He made me? What does it mean? In other words, He dictates the image. We're the image bearers. So I bear His image, but I need it to be described. I need it to be discovered. So I think, here's an example. James says, he said, a man who hears the word and walks away and forgets is like a man who looks in the mirror and then walks away and forgets what he looks like. So he's saying, be doers of the word, not just hearers. So this is back to that theology thing. So I think you can begin to be self-aware by looking in the mirror that's a truthful mirror, the mirror of God's word, not the mirror of social media or the mirror of my friends, but I want to look in the mirror of God's word and discover who I am.
And then make changes.
Well, then together with God, and then being in a healthy community, I think is the other thing. Just like marriage shifts our perspectives.
Yeah, it feels like self-awareness is like step 1 of being conformed to the image of Christ.
Right, yeah.
Like first you have to know, well, what's not conformed? Yeah. What's out of shape of the image of Christ, and that I can make it into the... So if when I interact with people as a leader, if I'm a bully, that's not how Jesus.
Right.
He didn't bully people into.
There's the mirror.
Following. So man, I've got some work to do. I've got to figure out how to communicate like Jesus. And
that's what James unpacks. Right. He says all these things are. I'm paraphrasing. This is your past life. And so I think being in a community though is a huge one. Now I don't mean any old community. I'm talking about a healthy and an honest community. Yeah. When you commit to that, then those people actually become feedback loops for you of and we talked a little bit last night about coaching and mentoring and things like that, teachers who help us get better, right? They help us to refine again, how we think, how we act, how we behave, because they're listening, but they're feeding back in an environment that's safe, in an environment that's healthy. They're helping me be better. But that takes commitment, and it takes courage. It takes courage on both ends.
Yeah. The mentoring thing is big.
Yeah.
I really think it is. I think, we need mentors. Everyone needs a mentor, and you need to do mentoring.
Yeah. Mentoring is a funny word because you and I get people come up and say, "Hey, would you mentor me?" And my question back to someone who asked that is always, "What do you expect of that? What do you think that means?" I'm not saying you don't know. I just want to hear from you what you're asking me. And sometimes they'll say, well, we could just get together and have coffee and we could talk about life, which is fine. But getting together and having coffee and talking about life and mentoring are two vastly different things. Because I think mentoring is an agreement. It's a structure.
Yeah. Like the word apprenticeship almost a little bit better.
Yeah, I'm a journeyman, or I'm the mentor. I have some skill.
Yeah.
I have some knowledge. I have some experience. I have some resource, and I'm willing to share it with you if you're willing to be the mentee, if you're willing to be the apprentice in that, in that example. And so those two people, the apprentice and the journeyman, enter into a contract. It's a 2-year contract or a 4-year contract, even to be a plumber. Even to be an electrician, even to be a carpenter, you enter into an apprenticeship program, and the exchange happens. You don't bail out because you don't like what the journeyman's telling you, or they criticize you, or they told you you didn't do as good a job as you thought. You stuck with it.
With that definition, I think people are qualified to be different kinds of mentors, but not every kind. Like if a young guy came to me and he's like, "Hey, I'm an entrepreneur, and I want to learn how to start a business." Like, hey, I can help you with a lot of stuff, but that's not really my thing. I don't know. Like, I can connect you to someone that could help you do that.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to be your guy. I've never started a business. Yeah. In Youth of the Mission, one of the values is do, then teach. And I think sometimes with mentoring, people try to mentor something they've never done before. And sometimes they call that coaching, and I think there's value in coaching, but I'm not a big coaching guy, to be honest. I prefer to find someone who's actually done it, doesn't just have a theory about it. And then, I'd love to learn from you. Like when I was a kid, I talked to a pastor, how do you put a sermon together? What does that look like? What do you do? And they spent, I know how to do that. I can help you do that. And they sat down with me and showed me what they did.
If I want to be a great tennis player, I'm not going to hire a wrestling coach.
No.
I mean, there could be some crossover about discipline or conditioning.
You can probably work me out real hard, but you're not going to teach me how to hit a ball.
But I really need to know how to keep it from going over the, into the out of bounds.
Yeah.
But mentoring has a real range to it. I think when we hear mentoring in the Christian world, we think of discipleship. Hey, I want you to teach me how to be a good follower of Jesus. And that's definitely a piece, but it's only a piece. Because in the range of mentoring, I think there's all kinds of sort of job descriptions. You just described a coach. I think that's a form of mentoring. Growing up, I had men in my life who were coaches. They were athletic coaches, but they spoke into my life. I was hard-headed and immature, didn't listen to a lot, but they genuinely cared about me. And they weren't just about making a better athlete. They were after making a better person. So a coach, but sometimes that's a temporary thing. Sometimes a coach is in your life for a year or 2 or 3, and then they're gone. So, and then there's other mentors who are say teachers. I'm going to teach you a skill, a specific skill. You want to learn how to do a business skill or something like that, right? And then there's others. A counselor is a great mentor. A counselor is someone who comes alongside. And we at our table last night, I heard a discussion of a couple, and they described their marriage therapist. They said, we've been seeing a marriage therapist for the better part of 10 years. I was fascinated with that. Like, talk about that. They said it happened because after 10 years of marriage, we found that we kept getting stuck on the same thing over and over. And no matter how hard we tried, we couldn't resolve it. We couldn't get past. So when we brought a third person in,
that's
a
admirable.
therapist, she began to unpack and help us unravel. That's what this, that's why. And they both, it was revolutionary and revelation for both of them because they realized, but that professional person in that moment acted as a mentor. I'm going to take your hand and walk you through. And she brought them out of the other side, but then they just stuck with it for 9 more years.
That's awesome.
I know.
Yeah.
I mean, not everybody can do that. But.
Because some people they either just stay stuck and they're like, well, this is what our marriage is. We get to this place, we get stuck. We get to this place, we get stuck. Or others would just be like, well, I guess we just need to dissolve this marriage.
Right, yeah.
And so to find someone that to not choose either one of those dead end options, but to move forward that's great.
Isn't it interesting today how the idea of mentoring seems so tactile, whereas the other end of the spectrum is, well, I've got 22 TikTok channels I subscribe to, and they talk to me about all kinds of things, and kind of people see that as mentoring in a way, but
or honestly, college.
yeah,
I'm not picking on college, but there's, one teacher isn't really going to mentor if he's in a big school, a large classroom of people.
Yeah.
He's just going to transfer information to them.
yeah,
And I think there is a swing that our culture's realizing, like, I need more than that. I need more than just information, because now information is free. You can get it anywhere.
yeah.
Like no one has a corner on
Right.
information.
There's no end
anymore.
No end.
Yeah. So you might need a guide to help you find which information is actually valuable or not. But I don't know that. I think we're moving into maybe a new era of mentoring.
Yeah, but I think when you look at the Jesus model and the Jesus way, he picked these 12 men, and he said they're going to be my disciples, which was a rabbi term, a rabbinical term, but he was with them. He was with them, and he taught them. On one hand, he did some teaching, but he also probably did a lot of I don't call it coaching or call it correcting, whatever you want, but I think there was a lot of exchange.
Yeah.
A good example is when they wanted to call down fire, and Jesus is like, I don't think you know what kind of spirit's operating here right now. So can we talk about this? Imagine what isn't recorded in the Gospels. That conversation that night around the campfire. What were you guys?
Hey, let's
what were
unpack
you
that where you wanted
thinking?
to kill everyone.
Yeah. What? Yeah. So
So you think you'd be mentored by Jesus?
I don't know, but there's all kinds of mentoring. We talked about this last night as well. There's passive mentoring, which is a kind of mentoring that I get that's not interactive. It's somebody that's lived before me. Maybe it's a historical figure, someone I admired. I mentioned several people that I've read most of everything they've written, and they've impacted my life.
For sure.
Somebody like a Dallas Willard or Eugene Peterson or somebody like that, and they've impacted. But I never met them. I never had coffee. We never hung out, played pickleball or anything like that. But yet they have shaped the way I think. But then there's active mentoring, which is, hey, my coach, or hey, we've got one of our own guys here, David Prosser, who he works with Fellowship of Christian Athletes.
Yeah, we just took him on and started supporting him as a church. So
I mean, what is he doing? He's on the high school campuses of our city, meeting with high school kids all the time. Yep. And for the ones who are willing and slowing down, he's actually speaking into their lives.
Even better than that, he's mentoring mentors.
Right.
So he's working with young people that then they go and run what they call the huddle, which is a Bible study, prayer time within the schools. Yeah. So he's not just multiplying once, but he's doing it twice into the.
And they're not just sitting around. I mean, they are to some degree just sitting around reading or talking about the Bible, but out of those huddles come real life stuff. Yeah. My family's in trouble. I'm struggling with my identity. I'm struggling with insecurity or fear or whatever. I'm struggling with temptation. And so there's real life application.
That's what I love about a project, because it's real life application. Whatever the project is, the project could be, let's win this football game. Yeah. The project could be theater. The project could be building a house. Whatever the project is, it's just a place of contact, And when I always argued in Youth of the Mission that the kitchen was way better than the classroom, because in the kitchen you had to apply the classroom. So work in the kitchen with the students, and then it all really comes out. This is where it really happens. Yeah. And the biggest and best project in the universe is the kingdom of God. So what if we worked on the project of the kingdom of God together and said, hey, how do we expand and see the Lord's will done in all the places on the earth?
Isn't it interesting that Jesus, the project was again the kingdom of God in real life? They walked around healing the sick, preaching the good news, comforting the broken, and they just tagged along and watched how he did it. And then after that was over, he left and told them to go do it. Yeah. I love that.
I love it. That's good stuff. All right. We probably better call it quits, though, here.
I had a question. You and I talked about this 2 weeks ago on the Monday night, but in regards to the mentoring thing, if you can look back in your life, those of you who are listening right now, and think about somebody who had an impact in your life, and ask the question, who were they to you, and what is it they did that impacted you? And just think about that. Who were they to me? How did they come into my life? And then what is it that they did that I remember it, that I felt like, oh yeah, that impacted me. I think that's a powerful question to reflect on, and then decide, how can I be one of those people to somebody around me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. I'm really thankful. I feel blessed. I've got a handful of people I can say, like, oh, these guys each had a real impact on my life.
Yeah.
And they came at different times in my life when I needed different things.
It was seasonal or for a time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, guys, let's do that. Let's, whatever has been passed on to you by good and faithful men or women, let's pass it on to another.
Be those people.
Yeah.
Be a person of influence, a VIP, a very influential person.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, friends. Thanks for joining us here. And I hope you come and join us on a Sunday. Our Kaiser campus is at 9:45, and then our South campus is at 8, 9:45, and 11:30. Lots of choices there. So either end of town and at different times. We would love to fellowship with you and worship with you. If you come this Sunday, you'll hear us talking about Mary's reaction and the celebration of Lazarus being raised. What it looked like to throw a party for
the after party,
a dead man. Yeah, yeah. All right. See you guys. Bye.
Take care.
I had an uncle, well, it's actually my wife's uncle, who never smoked, got addicted to nicotine patches and gum. He started with the gum. Who starts with the gum? You start with smoking, and then you do the gum to get rid of the smoking. But now people are just like going straight to the gum and the patches.
Yeah.